New update in just from the National Hurricane Center.
Just in time for the hurricane season, Marblehead's Eric J. Dolan dives deep into the history, science, and true life encounters with these amazing forces of nature.
So why'd you write this book?
Well, I've always loved the ocean, maritime stories, and I had long thought about writing a book about hurricanes.
Dolan is not one to shy away from a literary challenge. In A Furious Sky, he chronicles 500 years of hurricanes and their impact on America.
All of them, you know?
Yeah, well, I don't cover all of them in the book, but yeah, it is a little bit daunting, but that's sort of my MO.
Dolan takes the reader back in time, before meteorologists, before satellites and radar, to a time when hurricanes could and did change the course of history, as in the American Revolution.
Hurricanes in the Caribbean helped convince the French fleet in 1781 to go north and help their American allies and seal the deal at the Battle of Yorktown on October 19th, 1781, and that was a major turning point. The story about Christopher Columbus in 1502. He predicted that a hurricane was coming. He told the governor of Hispaniola, don't send the 28 treasure fleets across the ocean. They're going to get sunk by this hurricane. The governor thought that Christopher Columbus was a sorcerer or a prophet and that he had brought down the hurricane to punish his enemies and protect his own gold and silver. The story about Benjamin Franklin being the first person to discover that hurricanes had forward movement and they could go and travel in a different direction than the predominant winds were traveling.
So this is not a textbook about meteorology that someone like me would write. What do you want people to take away from this story?
The book is definitely not a textbook. It tells stories of individuals, human nature, people dealing with dire situations and fighting in the face of severe adversity brought on by these hurricanes.
Dolan himself is drawn to the hurricane of '38.
Northward, the tempest swept across Connecticut and Rhode Island, across Massachusetts, into Vermont and New Hampshire, and on to Canada.
A fierce storm that unexpectedly tore through New England.
On the morning of September 21st, 1938, people woke up to horrific news about Hitler's sort of vitriol, and people were concerned that we were on the brink of war. It wouldn't come until the 26th page that they'd see a little mention of a hurricane that was heading up the coast. But the Weather Service thought that it would miss New England, miss New York. The absolute devastation as it rolled over the tip of Long Island, went up into Narragansett Bay, literally demolished parts of Providence, Rhode Island, and then did a real number on Boston and beyond, and even knocked over part of the Cog Railway on Mount Washington.
Among the many stories is one told by actress Katharine Hepburn, caught in the storm in Old Saybrook, Connecticut.
In the morning, the waves had been calm, wind was light. By the afternoon, the wind was whipping. She was getting stung by sand being blown along the beach. Literally within minutes, the house was being ripped apart. It was being shook from its foundation. They escaped out a back window. It was floating down the lagoon, as she said, easy as pie. It just floated away.
When Hepburn called her father in Hartford to report the house is gone, but everybody is okay.
He said, you didn't have mind enough to throw a match in, because I'm insured for fire.
You also touch on climate change and the future of hurricanes.
There's no doubt in my mind, in the part of scientists, most scientists who have studied it, that climate change and global warming is very real, and it's the warm ocean waters that fuel the hurricanes. Plus, it's sort of a double whammy, because warmer air can hold more moisture. So you may get hurricanes that are far wetter. And then the third concern is that hurricanes of the future are going to slow down a little bit. They're not going to move as fast.
Dolan writes, in 1954, journalist Edward R. Murrow boarded a B-29 bomber to fly into the eye of Hurricane Edna. He was so moved by the experience, Murrow would later tell his viewers, if a true definition of humility is ever written, it might well be written in the eye of a hurricane.
Talk about timing for a book like this. 2020 is now the most active Atlantic hurricane season on record. There have been so many storms that the National Hurricane Center ran out of names and had to dip into the Greek alphabet. 12 of those storms have made landfall in the U.S. this season, breaking the previous record of 9. Coming up, a Greek profile in Courage.